Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok.
Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Good to see you, Caitlin. How are you?
Good morning. Spring is here.
I know, right?
I don't know if it's going to stay. Temperature's going to drop, but right now,
it's such a day-to-day proposition this time of year, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so nice. You've got across the highway, you've got a field of cows right now. So it's a nice little country drive coming.
Did you smell the manure they had dropped?
No,
oh my
I
gosh.
I got
yeah, I got in this morning, smelled so bad. Oh my gosh.
The wind apparently is blowing.
Apparently. Well, good for you, because it was not pleasant. But at any rate, it is the season, and I smelled. I was coming back from Monticello yesterday, and I got behind a truck that had like that plastic smell. I don't know enough. Reagan, who's coming in next from Extension, he could answer this, but had like a plasticky smell.
Okay.
I smell it every now and then. I think it's something they apply before maybe they till or plant. But anyways, be all that as it may, 'tis the season. So,
yes.
All right, let's dive into Caitlin. You know, and I had the weather service on yesterday, and they said the drought is easing, but gosh, it doesn't feel like it, because you know we get like rain and we get it all at once. We don't get really anything steady. But a month or so ago, they were talking about possibly drought conditions lingering into spring and maybe even water restrictions. How does that impact our nutrition?
Yeah, so I know for like Decatur, they have some voluntary water restrictions right now.
Oh, do they?
So that's something that is, worth a talk, right? We know that we had a really, really dry summer and winter. And so something that I was thinking about was like, how can we conserve water? Because that's already a good topic anyway, of not wasting extra water. And so I always like to we talk about food safety a lot when I come in. And so I want to remind people, like, we're not restricting on hand washing, right? We're still going to wash our hands before we are getting ready to prep food. But something that people can try is they can turn on their faucet just enough to get their hands damp, turn off the faucet, and then apply that soap. So they're not running water while they're getting that soap and lather going. And then they can turn that faucet back on to rinse off. And so that saves, just a little bit of water. But as many people know, when you're in the kitchen, you might be going between a lot of tasks where you are washing your hands pretty frequently. So that does save a pretty consistent amount of water over time. Something too to look at would be like cooking with less water, like choosing methods that cook with less water. So sheet pan dinners, I think, are a great example of this, where you're going to get a baking sheet and you're going to cut up potatoes and maybe some vegetables and throw some different cuts of meat on that same cooking pan, pop it in the oven. So you're not adding any water to that. Now you may need to use some water to maybe peel the potatoes and wash the carrots, but you're not doing something like boiling pasta on the stove where you're needing a lot of water. So that can be a way to shift, at least not for every meal for sure, but for some meals, thinking about how can I do more like this dry cooking.
Yeah, sure. I know this takes me back to conversations with like Miller Park Zoo and Scoville Zoo when they talk conservation, and it's little things that even you can do day to day. You're brushing your teeth, and instead of running that water for that whole, we'll say quotes 2 minutes, right? Instead of running that water for however long you're brushing your teeth, turn it off, and then when you're ready to rinse off that brush, then go ahead and turn it back on. Those sorts of things. So
absolutely. And then sometimes it's leaning into convenience items. So thinking about, if you're going shopping at a grocery store, you can buy pineapple chunks pre-cut up. So rather than buying the whole pineapple, where we recommend rinsing the outside of that pineapple first before you start cutting it up. So again, buying the pre-cut pineapple, someone already used water, right, to wash it and do that preparation. So that saves your water bill to not do that, to buy that convenience pre-cut produce. And then it also reduces a little bit of extra water because you've not done this double work of, well, someone already cut up this pineapple, but I'm going to buy the whole pineapple to cut up. Now, this could also apply to in like dining out even. So this might be an incentive if, if it's in your budget to dine out, because those restaurant workers are already going to be, washing produce and washing other foods while they're getting ready for your meal. So that might be, if you need a little incentive for an easy meal to go out to eat, where water is already going to be used in the restaurant setting. They're already making that food. I don't know, just like there's little ways if you're interested to make it work for you.
Yeah. Well, and one that I had thought of, there's a recipe, and I don't make it often, but a recipe for some green beans that I make, and it calls for you to boil them in water. And I just one time I got confused on the recipe and I put them in chicken stock. Actually, I didn't know if like chicken stock, beef stock, the broths if those are an option to maybe substitute for water in some of your recipes.
So that's where I was thinking of next too, was doing more low water recipes. And so we talked about like a sheet pan dinner, but for something like the green beans that you described, so instead of using water out of your faucet, you're using broth, for example, that's already been packaged. So that water's already been used, right? It's already in the can or in the Tetra Pak. And so might as well use it, right? If it's there, it's going to add some flavor, right, to your green beans or your other recipes, and you're not needing to generate extra water from somewhere else, like pulling it from your faucet. And then something that we talk about in Extension a lot is composting. So when you do have this extra waste, I know for me in my house, I've got a garbage disposal attached to my sink, and so for me to run that garbage disposal, I have to run some water through that. So instead of running my garbage disposal, I'm going to maybe save some of those vegetable scraps and add them to my compost. And of course, that takes a little bit of work and practice to get the balance right. But Extension has a lot of resources on composting if that's something that someone likes to do, and gives you the added benefit if you are going to be gardening or doing, even like houseplants, to add that back as a, very cool. My understanding is it's a nutrient rich but not crazy nutrient rich option to help fertilize your plants.
Sure.
So even something like composting and not using like a garbage disposal and running water for that could be an option.
Right.
So as you said earlier, it's these little things that kind of add up through your day that can help you conserve a little extra water.
Yeah,
that's really important right now.
And maybe not we all do it, but if some of us do it, it goes a little ways.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be everything, right? Like this is the same thing with a lot of conservation things. We're not expecting everyone to do all the things, but if you can pick the things that are accessible to you and feel like I can accomplish this, like this is the thing that I can do, you're more likely to do it anyway.
We're kind of getting into a bigger conversation here of like, the overwhelming feeling of, oh, the world's falling apart. We're losing everything. And it's like, how can I, what can I do? I'm just one person. And it's like, well, it's little things, right? And that we can control. And it goes a long ways in conservation. So
it does, absolutely.
And hopefully, Caitlin, we get some rain here in the next month or two that is going to replenish, let's say Lake Decatur, the Muhammad Aquifer, all these water sources we rely on, they get replenished and we can use things normally again, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Anything on that topic we didn't mention that you want to put out there for us?
So I just like to talk about some of the other things in Extension that we have. So we have what's called a watershed steward. And so this is a volunteer program. We've got volunteer programs through like the Master Gardeners and the Master Naturalist. And so our watershed steward is another resource that folks, if they're really interested in creating green spaces or water conservation, this is one that they can check out and add to, their own volunteer opportunities.
Okay, very nice. How do they learn more about that?
So I was going to link to our blog for that, but the Watershed Steward, if you're looking at illinois.extension.edu, you're going to get a search function. So I'll have you search for Watershed Steward.
Sure. Very nice. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension, our guest in studio here for this morning. Caitlin, let's dive into, we're coming up on Easter. And of course, decorating Easter eggs and those sorts of things are always, always a popular activity this time of year. What do you have for us as it relates to kind of eggs, Easter eggs, those sorts of things?
Yeah, so I thought this was I'd gone back through blog archives and I pulled up one from like a decade ago, and I went, oh, I remember this. This was really fun. So myself and a colleague, we had this class where we did egg dyeing, and I think this is really trendy lately. I don't think this is anything that people haven't heard before, but using plant and food materials to dye their eggs instead of buying packages. Of course, you can buy you get the really beautiful, vibrant colors for Easter eggs. But if you wanted to try it out with plant materials, we did a lot of really fun colors. So the one that always sticks in my mind was grape juice. And so if you've got an old bottle of grape juice that's in the back of the fridge, pull that out. It made this really lovely stone gray color on the eggshell. And so just like you would typically do Easter eggs, you would be adding water and then bringing that up to a boil and adding in whatever thing provides a pigment. So this could be, we did grape juice, we did coffee. So if you've got leftover coffee, you could, save that and use that for an egg dye. We did different plant materials. So like chamomile and yarrow gave these really nice yellow colors and oranges.
Yeah.
We did red onion peels. And so it gave this kind of grayish blue color. So even though what you think of something like the red onion, right? It's this bright, kind of red purple color, but because of the water, it kind of mutes itself out, and then when it attaches to the eggshell, you almost get a different color. So it's a little science experiment. So I think this is something really fun for families to try out.
And you just use regular eggs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would do white shelled eggs versus brown, obviously, because the color is going to transfer better to a white shell. But my colleague, she even did having if you go outside, we're getting into spring, so you're going to have some very small leaves that are popping out. She did some where you kind of press a small leaf around the egg and you wrap it with a pantyhose or another, something that's permeable to the dye. And so it leaves a little imprint of that leaf structure that is still white underneath.
Really?
So we had a lot of fun with doing these dyes and seeing what kind of colors popped out. And so doing these kind of plant pigment dyes is really fun. So whether it's a food, it's usually leftover beets gave a nice pink color. So if you have, again, you don't need to, it's not worth maybe buying blueberries just for this purpose, right? Use the peels, the scraps, the leftover things that are in the back of your fridge that you've forgotten about that are on their last life. Save those and add them to water, bring them up to a boil. I've got directions on the blog that I updated, and give you some ideas of times for these different foods, and then some examples of the colors that we achieved with the foods that we chose to use.
Okay.
You could certainly do other things. It's just a fun way to do that. And then I always advise, if you are doing an Easter egg hunt and you want to use these real eggs, you've got a couple of options. One is to poke a small hole in the egg, and you can try to pull out the egg and the egg white and the yolk, right? Pull it out raw. And so you can dye the empty egg. Or if you prefer to do the hard-boiled egg route, if you're going to do that outdoor Easter egg hunt with these real eggs, just be aware, food safety wise, that if these are going to be outside for a while, they should not be eaten at that point. So
right.
So especially if you do have, young kids are really excited and they, want to, crack it open. Oh, it's a real egg. Just be sure to check in on them. We're not going to be eating these particular eggs.
Okay. Gotcha. Very good. So keep that in mind. How do they find that blog post? You mentioned you updated it. Where is it? Yeah.
So it's on our Live Well, Eat Well blog. And so the title of this one, we called it Creating Earthy Eggs with Plant Dyes for Spring. So if you go to, again, extension.illinois.edu, we've got the different blogs. So this one is Live Well, Eat Well, and it's one that's just popped up in the last couple of weeks. So it'll be right at the top.
Excuse me. Very good. Well, Caitlin, let's take a break. Come back with some more. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension, our guest in studio this morning. More to come with Caitlin on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
AgriTalk is the radio talk show for American agriculture. Hi, everybody. I'm Chip Flory, your host. We join you weekday mornings from 10 until 11 on WHOW, on AM and FM, and on the WHOW streams. We provide farmers and ranchers with timely insights and information aimed at improving their operations. Join me, Chip Flory, weekdays at 10:06 on Central Illinois Ag Station, WHOW.
Here's Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson on how he works to save you money every day.
I know the retails at the stores indicator probably better than most of the people in the stores know. I monitor this closely so customers do not have to. And then you don't have to spend $40 or $30 driving round trip at 60 cents a mile to Decatur or Lincoln or Bloomington. That's real numbers. It's 60, 70 cents a mile to drive your car.
And as Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson always says,
hope to see you soon.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Paul Skowron here, CEO of Warner Hospital. Spring allergies acting up? At Warner Hospital and Health Services, we offer fast treatment to help you breathe easier and feel better fast. Quality care right here, right now. Click on our icon on DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt County is my guest. Caitlin, let's talk cottage foods program. What is this? What's this all about?
Yeah, so in Illinois and then other states around the country, we have what's called cottage food law. And so cottage food is a entrepreneurial type of business. So for folks that are really interested in creating food products and making them a business rather than trying to go straight to retail and selling at a grocery store, for example, they're able to make certain foods in their home kitchens without the need to get a commercial kitchen license and renting a space. So they can make these foods at home and then sell them at certain locations. The most popular would be at farmers markets, but there are other locations that are approved. And so this has been several, probably almost 2 decades now of Illinois having variations of cottage food law. And we've slowly expanded the types of foods that are allowed. And so really now we're kind of to the point where there's very few foods that are not allowed versus when this law started. It was more a much smaller list of things of like, you can do these and that's it. And then we slowly expanded as this goes through. So you're working with your local health department. They are the ones that are managing different operations and just double checking. So if there is a concern about food safety, health department is able to step in. But generally you're able to do things like breads, baking items. So cakes, cookies, canned goods are in this as well. There's certain canned foods that are allowed in this list, even like refrigerated foods. So if you wanted to bring a fresh made coleslaw to a farmer's market and sell that in little cups, that would be something that you could bring. So there's quite a variety of things. Most people will come with the bakery items. I mean, I'm sure there's some really talented people out there for cake decorating, or they make really good sourdough bread. And to be able to do that really with very little startup funding, right? You're not having to get a retail business space or rent that commercial kitchen. You're just able to create this in your own home kitchen and bring that out. And so what we're doing with some classes in April is we are inviting people who are interested in this, whether you are a current cottage food operator and you just want to get some updates or maybe network with people, or you're thinking about, I'm hearing about this for the first time, and this sounds interesting. I've got some, food business ideas. And so we are partnering with the local health departments in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. We're going to have a representative from the health departments there at each class. And so we're going to go through all the pieces, right? What you can sell, what your labeling needs to look like, some business considerations, and how to get started with the health department. And go through just those basics. And so we're going to host these in April. So we're going to start in Clinton. So we're going to host that April the 14th at 1:30 in the afternoon. In Monticello, April the 22nd from 9 a.m.
Mhm.
And then in Decatur, we're going to host that on April the 30th, also at 1:30 p.m. And so
Sure.
we'll run these as free classes for folks that are interested in learning more about what cottage food is
Mhm.
and help them get started.
Yeah. So is there a scale to this? Like, do you have to be selling a certain amount of food, or like a certain amount of times? Like, say, maybe you're only cooking, once a week or a couple times a month. Like, does it matter on those things?
No, it's very flexible with what your interests are in selling to products. So certainly,
Mhm.
since majority of sales are coming through farmers markets, certainly there's a season, right? Like
Mhm.
it kind of starts in late spring and might run through, late summer,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the farmers market season. There are some allowances now from even selling from your home
Mhm.
or from a designated like location,
Mhm.
if that's been approved, but there's a lot of flexibility. So for people that are looking for a little side business, or
Mhm.
they have some extra time coming into maybe retirement, or they maybe have young kids that are going back to school and they've
Mhm.
got some extra time where maybe they want to start a business, or develop something that they've been working on
Mhm.
that they think other people would want to buy.
Mhm.
And so it gives a lot of flexibility on like there's no minimum sales, there's no
Mhm.
maximum sales. There's just a lot of flexibility for people to try stuff out.
Interesting. Very nice. Well, on that note, Caitlin, how do folks learn more about the Illinois Cottage Foods courses that you're putting on here in April?
Yeah, so I want them to go to our Do It, Make It, and Pie It website. So
Mhm.
that is go.illinois.edu/DMP. And then we've got an events tab, and all three of those classes are listed, and you can get registered there.
Very good. Well, Caitlin, it's always good to see you. Thanks for making time for us.
Always.
Yep, that's Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, our guest in studio. Again, the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. If you miss our conversation with Caitlin, check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Replays of the videos from our interviews there as well. Network news comes your way now on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.